Okay, for the tamales we're making, I usually use about 2 dozen corn husks, plus a few extra just to be safe. Now you could use an electric kettle, but I don't own an electric kettle, so we're just going to use the other way. Take a big bowl, fill it with hot water, put the corn husks in, and add a towel just so we floaters stay moist. Leave that for 45 minutes and up to 2 hours. Anywhere beyond that, they're going to disintegrate. Spice-wise, you're going to need 2 teaspoons of chili powder, a teaspoon and a half of cumin seeds, ground please, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and a teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper, and 2 1/4 pounds of any meat of your choice. Now, the Aztecs originally used turkey, rabbit, and dog. The last one was more of a ceremonial food. And now, this was actually invented in Mexico. A cow farmer in Mexico, which are pretty scarce in Mexico to begin with, decided to put some of his decided to try making beef tamales, and, well, then it kind of moved up north, got all those spices. We aren't going to be making the spicy version, but we are going to be making the mild version. So, I have combined all that in a pot. Now, we are going to add just enough cold water to cover. And enough water to cover all of the meat. I forgot to mention this. For beef, you should probably use stew meat. Same for pork, chicken, and lamb. Well, not chicken, never mind. I don't think I'm going to make stew meat for chicken. And I know I'm going to get calls about this later. I realize the guy who tried beef tamales probably didn't use stew meat. But A, it's cheap. B, it doesn't have any bones you need to scan out, or cartilage, or anything that isn't good when you have to shred it later. So, we're going to bring this to a boil over high heat. Now I'm going to cover it. When it comes to a boil, I'm going to come back, reduce the heat, bring it to a simmer, and let it boil for an hour to an hour and a half. Yes, I know it's a long time, but we need to make sure my meat doesn't fall apart. You would do this for any type of meat, so go kill an hour and a half, go take a soak in the tub, go walk the dog, go take a nap or something. Okay, once you have finished with the meat, take it off the heat, let it cool down, and chop up an onion, 3 cloves of garlic, and a serrano chili, and save the cooking liquid. Cook the onion in oil for 2 minutes, then add the chili and garlic, add a half cup of reserved cooking liquid, and then toss in the meat until it is heated. Like the hat? Now we're going to be assembling our masa dough, which is technically a biscuit dough with just a few changes. Instead of flour, we're going to be using masa harine, corn flour. There are still kosher salt and baking powder. 2 to 4 cups of our reserved cooking liquid instead of buttermilk, and 4 ounces of good old-fashioned lard. Everything together in a large bowl. Now, just kind of use your hands to spread out the lard and mix it in with the flour. Make sure the lard's at room temperature, but you're supposed to store it at room temperature anyway, so I hope this isn't a problem. Sure, you could do this in a food processor or a hand mixer, but I, for one, would call you a sissy. Now make a little pool in the middle, once you've kind of mixed in all the lard, and start adding about in half cup increments, why did I grab my whole cup, of cups of a reserved cooking liquid. I usually start with 2 half cups, so that'll make 1 whole cup. Start mixing. It is going to be, ouch! It's a little hot, so be prepared for that. Okay. There we go. It should kind of actually look like mashed potatoes, but it's going to be a little thicker than mashed potatoes, obviously. Congratulations! You have made all the components of tamales. It is now time for the building. Now that should scare you one bit. Here's the deal. Making tamales is a lot less cooking than it is factory work. The more you think like Henry Ford and not like Julia Child, the better off you're going to be. Now, when you get really good, you can probably build up to 6 at a time, but for the sake of illustration, I will start with just 1. So, take your corn husk, take your nifty little scooper thingy, go into the masa dough, flatten it out, put it right in the middle of the corn husk and kind of take your hand and just flatten it out. Remember, you know your favorite spring-loaded tongs, and just kind of take out 2 or 3 pieces of the meat. Gently fold. Now kind of tie it. Now remember, not too tight. It's not a cigar. And there you go. You have successfully made a tamale. Fold it over, set it down here, and finish. Okay, the tamales have been assembled. I've got about 24. Now place a steamer basket in your favorite pot, and pour enough water just come up to the bottom of the basket and start bringing that to a boil while you start putting the tamales in. Now what you're going to want to do is steam them until they pull away from the husk. About an hour to an hour and a half. 2 hours later, and we have got perfect tamales. Now, a lot of people will argue that you need a lot of fancy sides. I don't think you do. Just a bottle of hot sauce and a drink. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and you don't need to wear one of these to make tamales. I just did that to look cool. Anyway, see you next time.
Can I turn it off?
Mm-hmm.